Email marketing can give you an amazing return on investment if you execute it in the right way. So in this video, I'll give you 5 tips to grow your business with email marketing. But before we start, for the best business and marketing advice, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to get notified when I post a new video every Thursday. If you don't know me, I am Jessie and I'm the founder of the brand Catalyst, which is a brand and marketing workshop where we empower people like you to become better marketers, and obviously we create content and we run courses and stuff like that. But for today's video, we're gonna look into email marketing, which I think is super rich territory, and any business should really utilize email to, first of all, build a report and build a relationship with prospective clients, but also nurture the current client list. So it's a really powerful thing. So as I said in the beginning, we have 5 tips that we will run through, and the first one is personalization. When we're talking about personalizations, there's various ways you can go around it, but obviously I want you to think about things like adding the name to the subject line. It's such a basic thing, but all research shows that even though it's not as impactful as it once were, it still matters because you're directing the attention to a specific person. And even more so, once they open the email, make sure you're addressing them by their right first or surname. But obviously personalization is not just about putting the name right and addressing them with that. So I would suggest you do things such as running an A and a B test. So for instance, test the subject line, have 2 different, you have 2 groups of people, and then you have your main list of people that you're targeting with your communication. So let's say A performs better than B, then obviously you'll use subject line A for the remaining people on the email list. So that's a way where you can start experimenting with what works and what doesn't work so well. Other things you can do in terms of personalization is that track the behavior of the people on your list. And by that I mean, if I have already bought item A, then that might indicate I could also be interested in these other items. So as a smart marketer, you will make sure that you're mentioning that we know that you were interested in this, so others with the similar interest has been interested in these items as well. So by doing that, you're not only showing that you understand the people that are receiving your marketing, you really try and push for sales, which is obviously beneficial for you, but you also show them that you understand what it is that they could be interested in. So there's many ways of going about personalization. So tip number 2 is segment your list. Now, what you want to do is that you're having all of these people entering their details. It can be by downloading a freebie that you have, or they might enter a webinar that you're hosting, or maybe they're buying off your website. So no matter how you are getting them into the environment of your business, you want to know where people are coming from, because if you add tags to them so you can develop groups around them, that means that you can also, going back to the personalize your messaging even further. And another smart thing that you can do when you're working with tagging is actually build up email sequences. So let's say that you are, this is a thing I'm doing, so I have a free guide for how to build a marketing plan. So if people download that one, then I can give them that tag, and then maybe I think that some of these people could be interested in joining my webinar, then I will send them into an email sequence saying, hey, I've seen that you're interested in this. Could you also be interested in joining this other thing over here? So in that way you're pushing them through your tunnel, and you're making them interested in what it is that you're doing as a business in a really efficient way, without having to write one email after the other, but they're just nurtured in a sequence based on where your prospective clients are coming from. And then a little side note to this, it's actually just as important to remove tags, or make sure that they get tagged to not being a part of a group where you already know that if they are within this area and this is where they're behaving, well, then they would definitely not be interested in this over here. So let's say I'm a woman and I'm really interested in dresses and female clothes. Well, there's probably no reason to push men's underwear towards me, right? So try and be a little bit logical around it, and then it can be super powerful. So tip number 3 is think mobile first. Now, this might sound pretty obvious to some people, but think about it when you read your next emails and have a good look and just try and learn from them, because quite often they're actually not working that well on mobile. You either have really long text sections, or the images might not be that visible, or at least the copy on them might not be readable. So just really basic things that are just not working, where you could get your game miles ahead of your competitors by just doing some really minor tweaks. So when I say mobile first, I firstly mean people don't read a lot of text. So stick to a theme, make a theme for your email and write it, and then that's it. So don't try and shoehorn a whole lot of different things into it. I would then just write 3 different emails if needs be, and you'll have a greater chance of actually being read. The second thing is that people don't read big paragraphs of chunky text. So divide it out really nicely, make some really punchy and engaging headliners, and think about how people read. They will maybe like skim the headliners and read the first few lines. So therefore you gotta go to get to the juicy context first. And the last point around this is that images gotta be optimized. So again, make sure you have good quality, and if you have copy on it, make sure it's actually readable. So choose a font that works. Usually something a bit wider makes it more readable. And if you've got to do a test, if you're the one that are designing it, I use Canva, so try and shrink it down to the 10% view. If you can still read it, it's probably good enough. If you can't, you will have to muck around with it so that it makes sense, because that's the ratio that people will actually see it when they open your email. And just think about that less is more when it comes to emails, and you'll have a greater chance of getting your message delivered if you're actually not overcomplicating it with a whole load of things in it. Comment below and let me know if you use email marketing in your business. Let's dive into tip number 4, which is always remember to have a CTA, or a call to action. So what is really important when you're having a call to action is that you're making sure that it is servicing a purpose. So previously in the video I talked about driving people to something that might be interesting in as well, based on a past behavior. So it could be attend a webinar, buy something else that other people might have been interested to, or whatever it is that you define that your audience could have an interest in. So you've got to have a CTA that leads them to there. Now, what's really important about that CTA is that you must state it really, really clearly what value it is that your audience is getting by clicking on the CTA. It doesn't take a lot to actually turn people off, and they don't really want to engage with it. So if you're really stating the value, and then also remember that images can actually sometimes say more than words. So if you support your point with an image, you might not have to say that much. You might not have to describe. A lot of people just intuitively know what it is that they're gonna get if it is that they click on your call to action. And then obviously all the obvious things, such as make sure it is red and bright and blinky, and it's stated in bold, so it's really obvious where it is that people should click. So sometimes if you have a bit more subtlety, you might have copy in your text, and you might have links on the text driving to somewhere, which is also really effective. However, I would always end an email with having like a button where you're driving people to whatever it is that you're driving to. So that's tip number 4. So tip number 5 is content is king, and email is no exception to this rule. So you really got to nurture it and treat it as a piece of content that are just as important as everything else you do when you're trying to attract your audience. So you should already have a business and brand identity. So make sure that you're making use of this when you're making your email. So it can be making them distinct in the way they look visually. It can be in the way you're writing it. So there might be a certain tone to it. So this can be a very nice way of making it like cohesive and feel like this is something that are coming from your business particularly. And then I'll say something that I a little bit neglected is images. I said it before with the sizing, but also the quality. So you see a lot of not so good, would be the polite way of saying it, imagery in emails. So make sure you really get some quality out there, because that will put you miles ahead from the competitors. And again, make sure that people feel heard in it, make it feel personal, and make it feel something you want to engage with. And then again, people they skim headliners, they don't read bulky things, so make sure it's really easy to digest. And again, it's very crafted and it's just easy for people to go to. The last couple of points around making your content king in this context as well is make sure you're creating a narrative in your email. And it can sound a little bit strange maybe, but have a good introduction, take your reader on a journey, and then end on a call to action. And it's just a really nice way of making sure that people actually engage from start till end. And then remember that simplicity, so less is more also in this context, right? So generally, I'm just really excited about email marketing, because the more your list of potential clients or current clients grows, the more targeted you can be, but also the more data you will get as a business owner that will tell you something about what it is that actually interests people around your business. And last, for the housekeeping things, make sure that you're obviously not spamming people with your content. Be really mindful of your receivers. They're not just a target you can spam. So craft and then send, so that you have a reason for connecting, and you will gain way more respect around that. And then obviously on the legal side, make sure that there is the unsubscribe in the end of any email. It is a legal thing, but also I think we all try to be lured into something where it's really hard to get out of, and it's just not that fun, and you don't want to create a bad reputation based on small minor things like that. So if you're ready to take your business to the next level, make sure you download my 7-step guide on how to write a marketing plan. It is a super helpful guide. I'll take you through step by step. And also I've actually left cheat sheets to some of my personal templates that I use every day for my private clients. So you'll have access to that in there. And also, if you want to join a community for like-minded business people, make sure you join my closed Facebook group. It is the place where I share tips and tricks and the latest insights, and I will warmly welcome you into the group. So right about now, I'm sure there should be some videos pinging up around me, so check them out. It is the latest content, and I will see you there.